one. So today we'll just continue what we learned last week. We'll be learning observation and hypothesis. So if everyone can go to the link if they want to follow along, as I said, you don't need to type anything. If not, you should be able to see my screen. So give me a second and we should be good. Okay? What I need you to do. Everyone hopefully can see the slide. These are some fruit that I ate a couple of years ago when I went back to Vietnam for the first time since I left when I was a kid. What can you tell me about the mango, the banana, and the pineapple that I bought over there from the villager that I was visiting? So go ahead and jot down one or two observation about these fruit as a group, okay? As a group, how do they compare to the fruit that you see here in the United States? So in the chat, go ahead and write down a few words. So I see David wrote down they're smaller than the one here. Anyone else? Okay, so based on some of the thing I noticed, I'm gonna review it so we can record it for the people who miss it. The comment is a lot of you say they have odd shape, a little bit shorter like the banana and the pineapple. They're all yellow, they are smaller, and the leaves are very green, okay, a dark green. So that means that it's exposed to a lot of sunlight. You guys know to grow a pineapple, all you have to do is cut off that little top part, eat the bottom part, and put that top part into black soil and water it regularly, and it'll become a full pineapple plant again. So you don't actually need to grow pineapple from seed. Oh, your dad does that. Awesome. Okay. Scientific question. It does not have opinion. It does not have feeling. It could have somewhat of a human feedback, like is it loud or is it not very loud? For like say headphone, is the rock hard or is it not hard? Those are not emotion. Those are observation using our senses. So in this case, my scientific question could be something like this, but it could be many, many different questions. Will this fruit have more concentration of sugar than the bigger fruit that we have here in the United States? Okay, there's no emotion involved. That's just simply by measuring the sugar. You can either measure sugar by taste, you can measure sugar by using a machine and squeeze out the juice, and then measuring the amount of sugar in that. So that's testable. One thing that you always need is a question that can lead to a hypothesis that can be testable, okay? So to prepare you for the quiz this weekend, we're gonna have another discussion on Thursday or Friday. You guys case will be Friday, and then the quiz you can do in the weekend is just 6 or 7 questions, so we can get you to be up to date. Lastly, we want you to have more detail. You should have if something happened, then a consequence because that way we know what you're thinking about. So what will be a good hypothesis I can make that is testable? That means I can measure it from my scientific question. What is a good hypothesis I can make? Wow, the meat is not as flavorful. Uh, it seems mushier. Anyone here have ever been outside the United States, whether it's Mexico or part of Africa or part of South America, and have had chicken somewhere else? If you have, you know what I'm talking about. If they've been grown on a farm where they're running around. But if you haven't, as I said, when you get older, some of you might get a chance. I see Justin said yeah, right? Dakota said no, Savelio. So that why that diversity for us, we can help and explain it to each other. Maybe we should modify the way we raise chicken here to not grow as big, but to have more flavor, to have less fat, for example. The meat over there is redder, more lean. The chicken here is kind of white most of the time, except for the leg, the only part they walk around. And I used to volunteer at a chicken farm to do research one. I'll tell you guys, some of the chicken here, they're not very healthy. I sneeze and 5 of them die from a heart attack one time. I start the lawnmower and about 20 of them die from the noise because their body is so big compared to their heart is not the most healthy. And that's from my personal experience. And then my baby niece ran out and was just like screaming, Uncle Lim is coming home. That caused like 6 or 7 of the chicken to die at a heart attack. So that farm that I was visiting, that really taught me a lesson about how the chicken here could be raised in a little bit different way. But as I said, that's just my opinion. That's not scientific fact. But for sure, from my observation, the flavor here is different. So once again, by being more concentrated, you get a higher sugar content. We don't say that overall that mango have more sugar than the mango here. Here I'm clarifying it so that way people understand. I'm talking about more sugar as in more concentrated. That means every bite you take, you get more flavor, more sweetness, more juice, and so on. Okay? So That's my clarification. Sorry, give me a second. So how can I test this? How can I possibly test that the fruit in Vietnam has more flavor than the fruit that we buy here? Okay, and I don't mean just overall everywhere in Vietnam, but just in the small village high in the mountain where some of the tribal people, the indigenous people live. Okay, how can I test this? So I want you guys to think about that for about. So from our class opinion, people tell me to taste it. We got led to by Mr. Wu in this case, but you guys should be able to let each other there next time. That there should be a lot of people, and everything between the two group testing it should be the same. They should all taste it at the same time of the day, so the taste bud is activated the same. They should all be the same age group, right? You don't want to have one group between the age of 50 and 60 and one group between the age of 15 and 20. They should all have the same number of bite. Because when you take a big bite of something and a small bite of something, the flavor can be different. People say, what you mean? Have you ever tried to eat an habanero and you eat a little bit of it? You can taste it already, and you try to take half a bite of a habanero? You know what I mean, right? So some of you know flavor can change with the amount. Same thing with salt or pepper. The more you put, the more intense the flavor is. So they should take the same number of bite, the same size, same time of the day, everything the same. There's only one difference, which is one is the organic fruit there that's been grown for 70, 80 years from the same plant, from the same seed, and one has been mass produced here in farm in Central America or South America or Hawaii and being shipped here. And because they ship here for a long time, we don't get the fruit ripe. Keep the same number of people, keep the same number of age group, and so on. So remember, keep everything the same, only one thing different. And you can type that in later, or I can write that in later. So here's for the main work for today, okay? And we already covered this slide because we went on ahead. So if you guys have your notebook there with you, or you can do this later, please go to this slide. Hopefully everyone has the link right now. If not, I'll put the link in the chat. So for your homework today, this should only take you about 2 or 3 minutes right after this meet. Go to this slide number 15 and write down the objective and the blue on page 5 in your notebook. If you did your note for this week already, that's on page 6. So now we're processing the information, we're using it. You know, it's like someone who buy an Xbox and never play it, it'll be useless. Or someone who buy tools and never use it, it'll be useless. So now that we have the knowledge from the note on page 6, we're going to have you practice writing observation, hypothesis, and then an experiment, okay? So pretend you already have this and you note it. When Mr. Wu wrote down that when he was driving home, he saw 2 groups of students leaving the bus. One group was wetter and one group was drier, okay? So the student walking in the rain had clothing that appeared to him that was slightly less wet than the group who was rushing and running. So from that, I write a hypothesis. Once again, it has to be if, then. If you run in the rain, then your clothing will get wetter. That means more wet than someone walking at a medium pace. Because as you run, the front of your shirt is hitting the raindrop before it can fall onto the ground. If you walk slowly, it should only hit you on the head or your shoulder. But when you run, you get the head and the shoulder less, but you get more on the front of your body. So when you think about it, your head and your shoulder is way smaller than the front of your body and the front of your leg, right? So from that observation, I say, if you run in the rain, then your clothing will get wetter than someone walking at a medium pace. And then I have my reason, my logical reason, because the front of your clothing will catch more. So if you could, go ahead and write that down in your notebook right after this. And I want you to brainstorm, how can I make an experiment to test that? And you would be splashing more water too. Yes, I noticed when I walk in boots, when I go fishing in the stream, when I'm walking fast, I have the water from the back of my boots splash up and the back of my pants will get wet too. So very good, David. Excellent observation. So for your homework today, I want you to think, how can I test that? How can I test if you are more wet running compared to walking, okay? So for your homework today, please jot down a possible test. We did an example with testing the fruit already. How would you test it? So something to maybe guide you guys to get you started. You might need 10 students who walk, 10 students who run, right? We're keeping everything the same. The only difference is one is walking and one who's running. We got to keep the rain the same. So how can I recreate rain? Think about that. How can I recreate rain? So it's the same amount. You guys know rain can change, go up and down. How can I make fake rain? Think of Hollywood, okay? Also, should the kids be the same size or are they different size? You can't have a group of fifth grader and then you can't have a group of like first grader or kindergartner, right? That's not fair. Should they wear the same clothing or not? So think about it. You want to have them wear basically the same outfit. So, like Jasper Ray said, use a rain machine or even a sprinkler. Anything will be creative, be fearless. And so, you guys are going to discuss that on Friday, and that is going to be your homework. So, with that, is there any question? Your job for tonight, in the next 5 minutes or so, after this meet is over, is to write down some idea on how to test who's going to get more wet, the one that's running or the one that's walking. Is there any question? Feel free to ask me.